Let's start by having each of you share a little bit about your journey of implementing PBL in your classrooms. Like, why and how did you start, and why did you stick with it? And I think it doesn't matter which of you starts for this one.
You go.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I got into project-based learning. Three different things kind of happened at the same time that I really couldn't even plan for. One, after about 5 years of teaching, I was over it. The whole prepare kids for a test thing ran kind of thin real fast on my journey. They were saying that the state test is like the Super Bowl of the school year. And I played sports. That wasn't a Super Bowl. That's just not it. So that was one thing. I was over it. Second thing is our campus, as you talk about the STEM, we're starting a STEM academy where all content teachers are teaching through project-based learning, of which I had no clue what that was at the time. Third thing was I was going through some life challenges. I ain't had no money, y'all. Okay. I was trying to find a politically correct way to say it. I was broke. And we've all been there, but the reality of it is I had to lean on other intangible qualities that had anything to do with my intellect. And I taught in an environment where I taught in the hood. I don't know how else to say it. A low SES area, and I said, man, these kids are going through the same thing I'm going through, but they're 13 years old. And I need to be able to prepare them with the same skills that I got to use now as a grown man. And having them pass a test and do a worksheet ain't cutting it. So all three of those things kind of work together. Then when I got into project-based learning and I saw it, I saw these characteristics and these life skills happening in real time on a project that wasn't that great, being very transparent. But just when I saw that creativity, it unlocked my creativity, and I started asking myself, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did that? So I became, in essence, a learner with the sole purpose of preparing them for life beyond the classroom.
Oh, my story is not that beautiful. I was a career changer. So what I mean by that is I was in industry. I've been a financial planner. I've been a journalist. I did a lot of stuff. And I was helping out planning my 10-year high school reunion, which is now about to be 30-year. Y'all don't do that math. But it was a 10-year one, and I got begged by a classmate to come into teaching. And I was like, I'll kill a kid, Stephen. That don't sound good. He was like, I promise you, it'll be okay. Come work at my school. And it turned out I didn't get hired at his school. I got hired at another school that said we did project-based learning. Now, again, I came from an industry where, like, whatever they told you we do, you do. Now, see, I quickly found out a year later that that's not what happens in education. Y'all don't necessarily do what people told y'all to do. But it's cool. It's cool. I get it now. You don't always need to do what they told you to do. But I was like, okay, project-based learning, it sounds like what I did in my life. Let me figure this out. And so I bought this horrible book. And I tried it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I had kids who never seen any sort of like capture in school be recaptured. I seen it was a housing project where they redesigned my house in one class, and then they designed a house for my cousin. They know that was my cousin, but they were designing her house, and I mean it was gorgeous. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. It was a horrible. They fine now. I still keep in touch with them, but. It was a horrible first start, but it got me connected. And so I left that school and went to my alma mater 2 years later. So I was in my alma mater from 2007 to 2023. So I was literally like giving back to the community that gave to me. And I always did project-based learning the entire time. I never lost the joy of teaching, I think, because of project-based learning. It never got old. The kids just were like changed. I remember this one girl. So he said he was in the hood. I called my school the school that people rejected. Everybody who couldn't go somewhere else was at my school. And then where everybody who didn't want people in their class was in my class. So I was like, you got to this building because nobody wanted you. And then the people in this building still said go to Telannia's class. So I really had like everybody who wasn't supposed to have anything from 2005 to 2023, the entire time. And I did PBL that entire time. My test scores were fine that entire time. And only because of opportunity at PBL Works to create units that people could use, I left the classroom to come lead this work and be able to help you experience. So I didn't get into this an ordinary way. I didn't go to formal teaching school, but I have learned a lot since 2005, and PBL is the center of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you both have really good reasons why you stuck with it. So let's get into the meat of math and PBL. A common misconception is that students don't seem to be like getting math, right, when engaging in project-based learning. So in your experience, how does PBL help students develop deeper conceptual mathematical understanding? And what moves can teachers make to ensure this happens? And I think, Bryon, you're going to start this one.
Yeah, so the whole term of getting math, right? I had to address for me, how am I providing the opportunities for them to, quote unquote, get the math? The worksheet wasn't working. That's just really what it came down to. I'm like you, I had the kids that didn't care. They ain't done worksheets up until 8th grade, they're not gonna start doing them now. And so, just a fact. And so, at the end of the day, I had to figure out a different way. And like I said, I had these opportunities to figure out a different way. And what I noticed from doing project-based learning, albeit my first horrible project that I did, was that it was authentic. And what I realized is when the students did the math in an authentic way, they were immersed in this experience. The project was they had to raise money for breast cancer awareness. So using linear relationships, I can say, we in math, we can say linear relationships in here. And folks be like, I get that. Yeah, there you go, linear relationships. And so that's to raise money for breast cancer awareness. Well, what I did not know was that I had several kids who had family members that lost somebody from breast cancer awareness. So they're connected to it, they got purpose, right? And now they're not learning this for the sole purpose of passing a test. They got to really figure out how to help the people, like the people in their family. So they're immersed in this experience. They really have to learn this for a bigger purpose, and they're not learning it alone. They're now in a community. We were talking about that earlier, about the importance of community. So it's not just me, it's me and my group. But it's not just me and my group, it's the whole class that's trying to figure this out. And so what they didn't even realize that they were learning math. They were trying to raise money. The math took care of itself. And so they didn't even realize that they were, quote unquote, getting math. They were just trying to solve a problem that meant something to them beyond just getting a grade. And so my responsibility was make sure they was getting the math. And so all the other teaching practices, like assessing, like student conferencing, like the exit tickets, like these are the types of ways that I ensured they still got the math. I needed them to get the money. Right? That's what they thought. They needed to go get the money. And the math began to take care of itself. Quick pause. No, all them kids did not get hundreds on their tests. Yes, I still had kids that did one problem in 40 minutes. Okay, I'm the only one that deal with that. Okay, right? Yes. So it wasn't this magic wand, but what it did was it allowed kids to have a purpose and move the ball forward for so many more of them. And then I can now intentionally focus on some of those that still need that extra support.
Okay, I'm just going to add two things to that because my son always do a good job. One, I'm from Oklahoma, y'all, so I'm going to say a whole lot of slang and slogans. So one we say a lot in Oklahoma is tell the truth, shame the devil. So one truth is kids ain't getting math regardless of the structure. And the problem is not the structure, it's what we think getting math means. And we think getting math means a lot of practice. We think getting math means doing something exactly how I did it. We think getting math means, test prep. We think a lot of things about learning that we need to rethink. So regardless of the structure, what happens in PBL is you start to learn true learning structures, which is talking about what you're doing is a key to getting anything. And the fact that you have to look from a bigger picture to get the smaller details. Unfortunately, math, we think, we got to do these algorithms. That's the details. That's not the forest. And kids will understand better if they have the forest before you get down to the details of the tree level. And so PBL forces you to think from the top down rather than the bottom up. And so it's a natural just switch to all of the bad practices that we do. It forces you to do better practices.
And the kids have to learn. They have to unlearn how they've been learning, and then I have to help them learn what learning actually means. Right? I would tell the kids, how would I know that you know my name? You either gotta say it or you gotta show me. Right? That's how I know. So how do I know that you got this concept? I need you to tell me and show me. So go grab that whiteboard marker, take your butt up there, and talk to me and show me. And it happens because, as you say, that the structures and everybody's empowered and working on something, I can now have those individual conversations or collective conversations. So it helped the assessment of learning happen real fast or more efficiently.
All right. See, I told you they were going to throw down some really good stuff, right? Who's learned something already new or thinking of something different than when you walked in the room? Raise your hand high. Come on. All right. We're here. We like to do a structure called I used to think and now I think, right? It's a great one you can use with kids once you experience or engage in something that creates some dissonance or requires you to think a little differently. So we're going to go to question 3. In a PBL classroom, students share power, right? They share power with the teacher. My experience working with teachers, that's one thing that teachers struggle with. Wow, if I share my power, like all H is going to break loose in here, right? It's going to be chaotic. How am I going to get them back? They have to think critically. They have to collaborate and communicate. They've talked a little about that already. And they have to do this about their math. Their math thinking. And this isn't always typical in most classrooms, much less math classrooms. I did middle school and high school math in the late 70s, early 80s. It's a long time ago. I was really good because I could memorize. But if you ask me how, I'm like, I don't know. I just memorized it. I don't really understand any of the concepts, right? But PBL is a little different. You got to be able to do those concepts, as Bryon and T alluded to. So the question here is, how can teachers build a culture for PBL in their math classroom? When kids, like you said, they're not ready. They're not ready to talk. They're not ready to collaborate. They might not like math. They might think they're not a math person, right? Because they learned that early. So they might think I'm just not good at math, which is like a really scary thing. I know 5-year-olds who already say they're not good at math. You're like, what? You're good at everything. Come on, you can be good at this, but they don't believe it, right? So how do you build a culture for PBL in the math classroom?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely write this down. Okay, so it's super quick. It's called the Ultimate Classroom. It's the first couple of weeks of the start of the school year, but you can do it at any time. Like I say, anytime you've ever had a break, do it right after you came after the break. It's a good time to do it. It's a culture setter. So it's just 2 outcomes in the Ultimate Classroom. A classroom learning agreements that you co-create together and their own individualized learning plan. I always tell everybody got an IEP. I don't care if you have an official one or not. And FYI, definitely at the high school level, they know what an IEP is, even if they don't have one. So it's not a secret. But I was like, everybody needs their own individual education plan. Like, what is it about you? What do you need? What do you need to advocate for? So those are the 2 documents that you're working to help them create over the 2-week period. And you could put in it whatever you like, but basically you are helping them with intakes of what it means to be a learner and what does it mean for it to be in this classroom at this time. Because what I need and what I could do with this group of people is not necessarily the same thing the next hour. First hour was never like my third, was never like my fourth, and 7th was almost hell. So, like, all of them required different things, and all of them needed to think about what that was together. So the first, yeah, always. No, not at the high school level. They smell and work at that point. So you need to basically spend the first week coming up with agreements, and it's easy as this activity. What's a problem? That's all I ask again. What's a problem? What's a problem that you've had with a teacher? What's a problem you've had with other people? They have no problems thinking of a problem. And then we just basically use that to massage into, well, what do we need it to be? If a problem is someone talks to me ugly, well, what can we do that would counteract that? And that's our agreement. And then we shuffle and work through it. I give them, again, different tasks that are like my class where they got to talk, they got to work together, and we discuss, like, what did you need in that moment? Was it cool for her to sit there and do nothing? Was it cool for you to take over? Like, I call everybody out. I was like, was it cool for this? Like, what do we need for this to really be? And then we use all of those experiences until the next week to formalize our individual education plan. They think about who they are as a person, what's their interests, what's their needs, what's their note-taking style. Like, what all do I need for me to be successful? And that sets the tone for the whole school year. We utilize that the entire time, and we build on it. And we adjust it. Learning agreements, we renegotiate them like every quarter. Like, what do we need now? What do we need to change? Same with their individualized education plan. Takes about 10 minutes of your class time, for those of you who are like real time sensitive. I only had like 43-minute class periods, so every minute I used efficiently. So I promise you, Ultimate Classroom, game changer. Game changer.
Nice. Thanks, T. How about you, Bryon? How do you
Just-
build a culture?
Well, that, but more than that, I had to address the teacher, me. And so I had to come to grips with my own love for control. And I had to really, really, really talk to me and fall out of love with control for this culture to really work. And so that was the personal work that I had to do. Then with that, I had to make a distinction with students between what's wrong and what's different. Mm-hmm. I can accept different. We need to work together to establish what wrong is. And so those two things was I had to develop a teacher culture to allow that culture to be able to manifest itself. Because with all that she just said, if I still love the way I want to do things, then those things won't happen. So the biggest thing was for me to address my love with control. Helped in all other facets of life too, but that ain't the point.
Like, I really, I love that. I really heard underneath this sort of
facts.
both their stories is this thing about trust, right? Let's trust the kids to know what they need. Let's trust the students to be able to do it their way, and that way it could be a great way, maybe even better than my way.
Yeah.
It's the way that they might need it. So I think that this idea of trust, when we talk about shared power, we're talking about, can you trust? Can you trust yourself? Can you trust the students right in front of you? I think that's a really important thing that I heard under there. Sometimes teachers are really nervous about trying PBL. When we do workshops all over the country, we hear all the objections all the time. And one of them is that people worry it won't meet the needs of diverse learners or multi-language learners in a project-based learning classroom. What tips do you have for teachers to address this? And I think you're starting with this one.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, the Builder Rejected school has diverse learners. Everybody. I have students who were deaf, students who had autism, students who had, 33 different languages were spoken in my building. So it was everything. The key is PBL in its structure requires you to think about the kid, not what I want to do. So it is a natural conduit for you to think about what does that kid need to thrive, and then provide the conditions to support that. Now, that doesn't mean that you coming up with 30 different solutions and tools. You help them discover what they need and just give them the conditions to have it. And kids are very resilient and resourceful in that. Many of my kids basically always share with me what they needed to help support them. I'll never forget one girl. She was like, Ms. Norfar, I can't stand this calculator. I just need a table with the numbers. And I said, the table with the numbers? What do you... And so basically, for those of you from the elementary world, you'll remember the table with all of the numbers to do the multiplication. She was like, I just want that. I said, well, girl, wait, do you have it? Can we go print it? Like, that's cool. I was like, I will change this. We can have it. So we got her a sheet of paper. Another kid just needed to pace in the back of the room when he got frustrated. I said, there's your runway. This ain't carpet. You ain't going to mess it up. Go ahead. And then just let me know when you're ready. Let us all know. We'll bring you back in when you're ready to get back. And so he would just, and we all knew. If he got up and he started walking, we knew he needed his time. Whatever he needed. So allow the kids to, like, share with you what they need and allow them to have that condition to have it. And again, like I said, PBL is naturally, that's what you're supposed to do. That is the required structure, is in its basis. Knowledge of students, equity level. What did you do? You had a bunch of people too.
Man, did I? Yeah, well, the biggest thing for me was I had to help them discover the safetiness of advocating for themselves. That was the biggest thing that I had to do was, one, like my mama tell me, I can't read your mind. But then two, once you let me know what you need, that's not a death wish. It's not a death sentence. It's okay. I need to know because I can't support you if you don't open up to me as to what you needed. So back to culture is creating a safe space to be an advocate for yourself. Second to that, quickly, is the importance of collaboration. Back to culture. Everything that you need does not have to come from me. It's 30 of y'all in here. Why you coming and talk to me? Right? Because you can't always run to mama when you get grown. And it's important to start building these types of things. So it's okay to have needs. And yes, I'm here to support your needs. I need you to open up, but I also need you to be a solution finder whenever you do. Project-based learning helps that, the actual project itself, but a project-based learning culture from August to June is what we're really after. That's in a project and outside of a project.
Okay, before we go to the question we talked about, I'm going to ask you each another question we didn't talk about. Don't hate me. Okay, but I want you each to talk about a little bit about your favorite project. Like, what was the driving question? What was the deliverable? What happened with the kids? What did they experience? Just to kind of, I was just thinking for a minute here, like, we're just talking PBL, but like we never really defined it. But I'm pretty much guessing if you're at Deeper Learning, you know what it is. But I thought it might be really nice for you to hear from them about one of the projects that they did with their kids.
Oh yeah, I'll make this easy because y'all may have watched it already. I have so many views I've seen lately about my finance project. So if you go to YouTube, go to PBL Works, do finance project. That is my favorite project. Every year it's a funnier story about what happens with the kids. And basically, in essence, the kids are helping a local family with their financial goals. It's for high school people, it's an exponential and logarithmic-based project that can be done in Algebra 2 or pre-calculus. And the reason why I love it is because, one, it's the highest authenticity that I do because it's real people. Like, real people. Now, they don't know they're just my family and friends who I, sent the Facebook message out. I was like, who's available? You can make it up or you can give them real numbers, whatever you want to do. But basically, they really like, I remember one kid, after we had did the launch, he was like, really? They gonna trust us? And I said, well, not completely trusting you. They're trusting that I'm gonna teach you and help you know how to do it and give you practice. And he was like, oh, okay. And then I had another kid one year. We had just did the lesson on compound interest, and he was seeing the power of the money. And so he started making plans for him and his future wife. He was like, she gonna save another $50 when she come in. I said, hold on, ho. I said, don't be making plans for nobody else. I was like, one thing, if you want to stay married, your wife's money is her money. And you can teach her this principle and encourage her to join you, but you need to go ahead and just plan for this plan yourself. And he was like, oh, yeah, right, Ms. Norfar, right, Ms. Norfar. I said, yeah, don't break up a happy home before you even have one. So I love the real connection that kids get with that. I love the complexity of the math with it. Sometimes higher level math, people shy away from it. But as I tell my kids all the time, I was like, if you really understand math, you will never get scammed. Like, it is the most powerful language you can learn. I was like, math and English are just two languages. One is with numbers, one is with letters. Yeah. I was like, if you master both of them, you will never, ever be unempowered. So yeah, that project just so empowered my kids each and every time. And it was always fun to do.
Don't play me about no money. I like that. Loved it. Yeah, for mine was, driving question was, how can we advocate and support a worthy cause? And that was, the students were to choose a cause to stand for breast cancer awareness, autism, bullying, suicide, drug awareness, whatever it is, right? Whatever that particular cause is. When I launched it, what I did not know was that I launched it on the anniversary of one of my students' uncle's death from drug overdose. Right. Things you can't plan in life, or when you launch a project. And so when she saw that that was something that she could choose, I mean, she just came out bawling, crying. This was one of them. This was one of those kids, by the way. Y'all know what I mean by those kids, right? Okay, there you. One of them that keep you up at night. She was one of those. And when I say that from that launch, the conversation about grades might have happened once, maybe twice. Mm-hmm. They were so committed to raising money. We had one group. This was right on the brink of Trayvon Martin's getting shot by, killed by police violence, right? So it was around that. I had a group advocate for that. We had, we called them the Pink Boys. They were advocating for breast cancer awareness. We had another group whose the girl's niece, the girl's nephew was getting bullied, and he had autism. So all these causes were so powerful to them, and they were creating ways to raise money, selling chips, T-shirts. So you have to buy things, think about profits, expenses and profits, and then now how can you calculate that proportional growth over time? And so that was what the essence of the project was. But more than that, when they launched their final product, which was a plan to get some seed money, I mean, the tears that was coming out of their eyes from just presenting their idea was so powerful. So that was probably one of the biggest, one of the dopest experiences, just as a teacher watching those kids.
Nice. Earlier, I don't know if you guys remember, well, thanks for sharing those project stories. They both talked about their first projects and how bad they were. How many of you have tried a project with students before, project-based learning? How was your first one, like, honest, like, thumbs up, here, down? Where was it? We're like a lot of downs, a lot of things, right? Because you're learning something new, too. You're trying something new. My philosophy is you only get good at something by doing something. I was a coach. You get good at softball by fielding a million grounders, right? That's how you do it. You just got to try it. You have to experience. You have to do it to get better at it. But we also know it's really hard for teachers. And I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about what you're creating to help teachers getting started with projects. Just a little. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I oversaw the technical definition. Okay, so yeah, so I shout out to Jillian. I really do have to give credit. I am the director. She is the curriculum director. She oversaw all of the contractors to build out 6 middle school units that is available now. I would say there's 2 beautiful things as a result of this. And I got a quote, Sarah Shannon, who had looked at a skeleton of the project, and she was like, oh my God, you have written all of the best teaching practices in a lesson. And so now we are seeing a first-year teacher demonstrate skills like a 7th-year teacher, because they're working on following all of the practices that we laid out, and we're innovating curriculum in a way that it's not scripted as in you got to follow it verbatim, but we're giving you sources to pull from and use and navigate, and then giving you tips of how to utilize this and move through lesson to lesson. So it has some known things, but then it has some new things that to help develop a teacher. So we have, teachers who are brand new experiencing. But then what makes me cry is a 20-year teacher who tried it for the first time in January. And now we went back to his classroom 1 year later, and his kids are up at the vertical whiteboards. They're talking. He's coaching. He doesn't have kids in rows anymore. He gets it. He gets the curriculum and the moves that he's making, and he's seeing all of this great growth in his kids. And so whether they are new to teaching or you are a veteran to teaching, having the weight lifted off of you to think of everything and having basically a set of resources ready for you to implement that has been vetted and it is high quality is just a game changer. I don't like to do the math because it's double digits now, but from 2005 to 2023, I invented all of my projects. And like I said, I got this book to help me on the first one, but it was a horrible book. Like, I didn't know it was horrible at the time. But, once I kind of got in it, I was like, well, this is missing, and I don't know how to do this. And so to have something to start is just so valuable. And I'm just grateful to have been in this experience to oversee the creation of this. And within a year, like, we have 6 PBL units at the middle school level, and we're working to have other grade levels by the end of the year so that you can get started.
Yeah, or go deeper, or even, try one of them, even if you're an experienced PBL teacher, and be like, whoa, okay, what's this like? Bryon, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with the units? Because he's been coaching a lot of teachers to use the new units.
Yeah, so I get a chance to work with the teachers on actually implementing it. And it's just cool to hear the stories of triumph, the stories of struggle, the stories of overcoming, the stories of almost giving up, but then pushing through. And I can wrap that all up with what one teacher said was, students, for the first time in years, I'm in the same position as you. Mm-hmm. And I got to learn this thing just like you're having to learn. And so it's back to what I said earlier, you're falling out of love with control in this space of vulnerability. Now you're leaning into you needing to have some learning agreements to lean into this safe space. And the way that these teachers explain how the kids rise up because they've lowered themselves has been the most powerful thing. So, yeah, I've heard and seen student transformation, but watching these 50-ish teachers from August to where they're at now and how they've evolved, how they've decentered themselves, how they've lowered themselves, how they've came in and manipulated little nuances, because as you get your rhythm and your flow from what's already been created, they started to create their own path and has actually elevated the projects beyond what we even have written. But seeing where the fear they started in August to now we're almost, I'll see what next month, and the stories of success that's going to happen is going to be powerful. One said those students, and I'm thinking about last year, a student that is so unengaged is now completely transformed through that project experience and has now applied to technical school and high school. Mm-hmm. This stuff is not about a grade. It's transformational for student lives. And so these success stories from teachers and students has been powerful.
We have one more question before we're going to open it up to Q&A. And this question is really, you've inspired us all with your stories, but what's your very best advice to teachers who want to either get started with PBL or deepen their practice with PBL?
I can sure. Literally, just start simple. Start simple. Start small. I had this phrase for years. I was like, just date an element. So PBL, we call them the essential elements. There's 7 of them. I was like, just pick one to start with, and work on it. Reflection, or critique and revision, or sustained inquiry, like getting kids to ask questions and figure out the answers to their own questions. Another one I love is a public product. Just even if you just brought another class in to show they work in, everybody steps up their game when their work is visible. Just date an element to start. If you're really scared about starting a whole project for weeks on end, just pick an element and get started.
Yeah. And for me, the same thing I tell these teachers, that we're working with the math teachers, are just go mess it up. Go get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Just go get it wrong. Like, you're not going to break the kids. You'll be fine. Like, we have to fall out of love with being perfect the first time. Go get it wrong. You'd actually find that it creates a vulnerable space where you're now sharing the learning with students because, again, you're showing them and modeling for them how to grow. And we're modeling growth. So that was the big thing I had to get over was just to go do it and go get it wrong, because that project where they were donating to charity started off with them creating a poster and putting it right outside with some glitter on it. That's where it started. But after I did it, it started to evolve over a span of years as you've gone back and thought about it. And so it started off as that and became this powerful thing where kids are literally crying over the presentations. So just start small, go get it wrong.
I'm sure listening to these guys has raised some wonders, some need-to-knows for you. The need-to-know process is one that we advocate for, just always checking in. What questions do you have? What new questions do you have? Have any of your original questions been answered, right? What questions do you have? So we're just going to open it up. You have index cards, or I feel like you could just, we're in a small enough room, you could just raise your hand and I'm going to bring you the mic to ask questions. Dara, this is Dara.
Hi, thank you for sharing. It's been great. I'm a science teacher and somehow I agreed next year to teach science and math.
Come on now.
But I'm very familiar with place-based learning and excited to try it in a math setting. And the question you actually mentioned, pause for a cause, one of the projects I believe you did. Yeah, so, and I think it's in one of the rooms. I think one of the rooms I was in, I have no idea if I'm saying, there were kids and graph paper and 3D dog houses, and I'm wondering if it's the same thing, and if it's not, I would love to hear what your pause for a cause was.
Yeah, no, that's not. No, I don't work here. Yeah, that's something else. But like you're asking, like what the kids have to create. Okay, yeah. So they had to choose a charity. So choose a cause, right? And then so I'm gonna choose cancer awareness. And then I'm going to call the Ronald McDonald House, which is, I'm from Houston, is in Houston. And then I'm going to say, okay, what we want to donate. And then now,
I get it.
so then I have to create a plan.
I thought it was PAWS, pause for a cause.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah. Okay,
Also
okay.
a fun
I understand it now. Good clarification. I'm here for it. Yeah. Shout out to the animal lovers. I just want to say that on camera.
Who else has a question? I'm here for you. All right, we got this front row's very excited. Kat.
Hi, I'm Kathy. So my question is, it sounds like you were both in environments that were, you didn't have to fight with admin. Let's go there. There are many of us who are interested, excited, but we get the, yeah, but where's the worksheet? Yeah, but they haven't been on the math program for this long. So circumventing the yeah buts and smiling and closing the door. So how do you navigate that?
I love that question.
I gotta
So-
pray for. I gotta pray for my answer.
No, that wasn't.
Yeah, that wasn't our reality. That
that
wasn't my reality.
Does anyone have a place for us to go?
Yeah. Okay, so there's two pieces to it. I will say because I started at a charter and then I went to my alma mater is a regular public school. I stopped counting how many principals I had over my tenure. Like I had underwear longer. So I wouldn't say I ever had admin support. Like yes, my first principal when I came over there, like she was like do whatever. But she was only there for like 2 years before she had like moved up. Pretty much the rest, it was now I'm in a union school. 10 years a beautiful thing. It would take way too much paperwork to fire me. So after like 4 years, I do whatever I want to. It didn't matter who. Nobody said nothing to me. But I do know that world too, and I did have to play like a game. So yeah, so there was a piece of paper always in my room. Because the other reality of it is they not there. They not coming. Really, they gonna say something, but they're gonna go back in their office, or they're gonna be dealing with such and such. So they're pretty much there on an evaluation. So I made sure I did whatever they said that I needed to do. And then there was sometimes like one of my last, she still laughs at me. We're good friends now, but I was like, I'm not doing that on an evaluation. I was like, I don't get it. I'm not doing it. And so she was like, come on, Telannia, you just got to, I said, kill him. We could keep talking about this for the rest of the 5 minutes we have, or you can go ahead and move on. But like the answer will not change. So I knew how to play whatever game for when they are there. And because they're not there most of the time, I did what I needed to do. And so, yes, a piece of paper was there for whoever possibly walked in on the unannounced visits, which again is like once in a year of the whole school year. And I did what I needed for my kids. So yeah, that's hope that helps you.
Yeah,
Definitely see me after if it don't.
Yeah, real quick. It was the moral imperative. Like I said, it was. I had a moral imperative based off the things that happening in my own life. So that was the first thing that I was ready to die for the moral imperative, and that was just that first off. Second thing is I realized even young in the teaching game, I had to play the game, beat the game, change the game, but I had to go in that order. And so once I played the game and beat the game, well, then now I was in a space where I was able to change the game. And so no, I did not have an extreme amount of admin support. Admin was kind of split.
right? So I kind of had to go find the advocates and leverage them, and then help me to support against the other advocates. But the biggest thing that I had to do was I just made what I was doing visible. So we going out there in the hallway, we going outside, we presenting these projects outward. I'm bringing the admin that was not supportive. Hey, can you come be a judge or come critique these projects? So that's how I would bring them into the space. Was I just made them a part of what it was. And once you see these kids enjoying themselves and learning, we're never gonna have a conversation about your moral imperative. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But you see my point. It was really just dealing with, because you see it's happening, and that was the steps that I had to take.
Yeah. What they said.
And yes, we can talk offline about some strategic. And
We can talk to
you.
you
Probably
as
that as
principal.
well.
That was resistant. Here you go.
I'm Gulia.
Leah.
I'm on a mission here. Definitely, mine is backwards, or like backwards, whatever she said. Our admin is on board, but I'm on a mission just to find out how to recruit the other teachers who are nervous and scared. It's not only the control for love they have. The nervousness comes from the whole bunch of reasons. The fear in there, isn't it right? The high effort. They believe that yes, modeling advertising happened, but they're still nervous because of the high effort. Like, what are they losing? Like, we're trying to recruit them. So in your experience, you have seen a whole bunch of different types of teachers. I would like to hear how you guys handle those, and just pick your brain what you guys did. Can try out.
Yeah. Ooh.
Great question. Thank you.
So, okay, one, patience is a virtue. You truly have to be patient, especially if, so in my situation, again, it wasn't an administrative directive. So sometimes that is helpful to move people along because they have to. But nobody had to. I had to win people over, which is a great way to get people, but it's a long way to get people because they don't have to. So one is doing it first. Like, I did it, and when kids changed their schedule to be in my class, that changed their idea. Because I'll never forget this one kid. She was like, "What he doing in here?" I was like, he got my class. And she said, "He was in my class. That's all he was." You know, because it's a large school, like 1,300 to like 1,500 kids. So I didn't know he'd been here. I thought we get new kids all the time. So I just thought he was new. I didn't know he did his own schedule change. And he was looking so awkward. I said, "Oh, and later he was like, well, I have, all my friends was talking about your class, and so I really wanted to switch in it." I said, "Oh, okay, sweetie. Well, it's cool. It's cool. I got you. She ain't gonna do nothing to you. I'll smooth it over." So that was the first level, like, just letting people see the change through my efforts and not forcing them. And then the second is just encouraging them to do small things that we would collaboratively create. So I became department chair really quickly in my building. And so I intentionally, as the chair, said, okay, we need to do something together that we agree. I said, we're not walking out of here with complaints. We're going to walk out of here with a solution. So we'll start with maybe 2 top problems that we feel like we have, and then we're going to come up with a solution that we're going to do together. And typically, any of the solutions have a PBL element in it. So one year was basically like, again, having kids be collaborative more. And so teachers who usually had desk and roles switched it to grouping as a start. So that would be the second thing. The third thing is, again, if it is a directive, again, allow them to start slow so that they won't be in like a stale mode. Because there's nothing worse than a kid knowing that a teacher is having to do something. They know game. Starting at 3rd grade, they know the school game. So you definitely still want, if it is a directive from your admin and you, to still have them have a voice in it, just like PBL gives people a voice. But when I left in 2023, y'all don't know him. Trail still isn't doing a lot of things that I wish he would have done, and we've been working together since 2007. Yeah. But he wasn't in roles no more. He stopped doing, some worksheets. And, I hadn't moved him all the way to my end, but he was way better than he used to be. Yeah. So be willing to be in the long run for some people, too.
Just celebrate the growth. Everything she said, and just celebrate as they take those small steps, those uncomfortable steps. She was telling me about the teacher that started off last January in rows, and then now he's up at the vertical whiteboards. His classroom isn't perfect, but he is growing. So just celebrating, finding ways to celebrate that growth, I think will move anybody.
Yeah, we've got a great article on our blog. If you go to our website and Google the dimmer switch, it talks about that. You know, a dimmer switch, you can turn it all the way up, or you can just start small and just like, you just want to be turning on some light. And so that article talks about how you can invite teachers to turn up the dimmer switch on PBL without going all the way. And usually once they have a great experience, they're gonna want to try more, right? They're gonna want to try. And you give them those tools, you're right there. Question over here from Mr. James Campbell, who we know.
So my question is this. What advice would you give to the math teacher who says that I have to teach this concept, whatever the concept or topic is, before I engage my students in a project?
Okay.
Love this.
That's good. First thing, that's a great question let me say something else before I answer that question. You need to definitely, as a math teacher, understand that, and this is how it was explained to me. Some standards say, teach me and leave me alone. Some standards says, play with me a little bit. And then some standards say, this is a project worthy type of standard. Ordering numbers is great. I'm not about to make a project out of it. Actually, I tried it, and it was the worst idea ever. Y'all, if y'all don't understand, put these numbers in order and get out my face. Like, come on, y'all. Right. Volume of three-dimensional shapes is something I can make a project out of, right? So understanding that difference. And then, now to answer, now with that, let me launch them into a real-world experience, right? Because now that I've created a why, you're talking about the what. The what is the what, and the how is the actual math concept. Now that I've given you a why, you're going to be more apt to listen, especially if it's meaningful. That's how I would tell that teacher or walk that teacher into that, and I would actually support that teacher in doing so, if needed. A great launch to an experience makes everything better. That's why we did the... Okay, come on, y'all, wake up now. That's why we did that. That was the whole purpose of bringing Molada here. Amen. Okay, a great launch.
Do you want to add anything to that? Yeah. Awesome. We probably have time. It's about 4:21. We probably have time for one or two more questions. Who's got one? Anyone else here? Long day, travel. Any other hands? Yes. Yay.
Hello. I'll start out. I'm not a math teacher. In fact,
It's okay.
I ran as far away as I could. But my daughter is finishing student teaching in math right now, so that's very exciting. I'm an administrator, and we have been encouraging our teachers. And I have one, and this was actually a few years ago, but I have one math teacher that really worked hard to do the PBL kind of work. She actually got a lot of pushback from the parents, and because it wasn't and I think one of you said it earlier, it wasn't the way that they learned math, or sometimes the very high accelerated students, parents were like, well, are they going to be able to get into college? Are they going to be able to do okay on the SAT, ACT, blah, blah, blah. So just, I'm curious some of the conversations that you might have had like that with parents.
Thank you, Sarah, for that beautiful question.
Okay, I get to kick this one off. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. Those parents annoy the heck out of me.
I'll let you go
You
first.
are being recorded.
There you go. I felt it in your spirit.
Yeah.
That's why I stayed quiet.
But okay, so and I am grateful that I worked in a school where the parents were wonderful. Like, what can I do to help you? Or you couldn't find them. Like it was a kind of a one way or the other. But they definitely weren't like that. But my first school was a very involved parent school. So this is what I learned. You got to inform them first before you do anything. Mm-hmm. So food is helpful. Basically, I had an open house that was basically my open house. But if you're doing it as a whole school, then just change your open house to be this way. Because every parent who is involved is showing up there immediately. Provide really good food and make sure they eat a little bit before you start talking. And it was two things that I did often. I would give them the experience of what the learning is, a very small snippet, and then have them discuss. What was it like? What did they value in it? What did they experience? And I said, you know what, this is what your child is going to be experiencing. And so that helped a lot. If time was really short, because sometimes, I really did it with the school open house, I would basically give like a snippet of what was happening, explain to them the reasons why. I taught that way, how it would develop their child, how it would help with their essay writing to get into college admissions. And all of those, I just kind of would refute all of the talking points that would happen. But and then I would invite them. I was like, can you be a community expert? Can you come in or I was even on Skype. I was techie before tech was in. So I was using any kind of tool digitally, even before people were doing it, to kind of get more audience people in. And that's how I got a lot of people, was those same parents. But yeah, win them over first before you do anything, and then they can become your greatest ally in the other people who might be crazy still later that you didn't get to.
We have about 3 more minutes, I think, before we have to wrap it up. Are there any last beautiful questions? So all these questions have been incredible.
Hi. So you've talked a lot about shifting belief systems, rethinking the definition of mathematics, teaching practice approach. So what would you name as the first next step for teachers? Or anybody thinking about it? Because when you think I got to come up with a project, it's got to be this big project. It can be really overwhelming and scary, but what would you name as this would be your first next step?
Yeah.
I think one of the easiest things is just start with them. Take the same worksheet.
There you go. Yep.
But make them stand up
That's
at
it.
a vertical space. Especially if you even have windows, give them windows to write on, because the Windex clean that right off.
Mm-hmm.
And have them intentionally work in pairs first, then grow it to triads, and then a group of 4, so that you have more. They don't have to have as much available space. And just start working that, having the work be visible around the room. And naturally, you'll start seeing the discussion. Because, again, they're up, and they're, looking. They're like, oh, wait, she did that over there. Yep. And you as a teacher can start seeing. Because you ain't got to run around and try and look at all these 25 problems that, they ain't getting to. And see what's happening. You just change the space. Instead of being flat, they now up. Mm-hmm. And it's an easy switch. It's one of the foundational pieces in all of our units is we random group. And we use vertical space for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to that, for me, or with that, I started answering questions less or answering questions different. So that was my one thing is, because I got that worksheet, because they're up, now I can see who's all learning. So when you come ask me for help, I can say, oh, right over there. And so I started changing and started pointing all arrows and rows to me and started pointing them towards each other. And that had nothing to do with a project. To your point, that was everyday instruction. And you can go do that on Monday. You can do that on Monday.
You just made me remember. So I co-wrote, she mentioned that I wrote a book. 3 of them.
Light Flex.
Yeah.
Okay. That was cute. Hey, hold on. That was cute. That was cute. She held it in for an hour. That was cute.
Y'all know, they act like they wouldn't get on me later. They always get on me about not mentioning the books well. But my co-author that wrote it with me, I love this. He would do this every time, because that's the natural thing, the question that happens in math all the time, did I get this right? And instead, he would always say, well, what would make it wrong? Every time, it didn't matter what it was, he would just maybe be like, well, what would make it wrong? Yeah. And that's an easy thing to do, too, in the questioning process, since that's the most common question that a kid would ask you, did I get this right?
The second statement they would make is, I don't know. And my response to that is, well, what do you know? Because if you can give me something, we can work from there. Because last time my mama said, nothing from nothing leaves. Okay, there we go. And so if you can give me something, we can start from there, because I had to help them realize that the only answer I can't accept is I don't know. And so what do you know? And if all you know is Betty is trying to make cookies. Well, there you go. Hey, we start somewhere. We read the problem because Betty's trying to make cookies. Watch this. What else do you know? And it just starts from there. So what do you know?
Nice. All right, you guys, our time together has come to a close. I would love to just take a moment to acknowledge all the brilliance in each of you
Yes.
and just what it took you to even get here and to be open in your learning, to want to deepen or make your own practice better or start something new. Like, that's courage, bravery right there. And at the same time, I want to really, really thank Telannia and Bryon. Will you give them some love for me? All right. And I'm sure they'll be around if you have some questions you want to answer in front of the whole group. And we just thank you for coming. And we hope you check out our website and try some of the new units that we created. That's one way to get started. Try a unit that is already kind of gold standard and good to go.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
They'll
Thank
be
you.
available.